Bible Foundation developed a film called Senisim Pasin. Now, this film actually looks at the different ways in which that we talk about the values that each gender, and this is not only women, men too, add on to the roles that they play to make a family a better place for them, for the children to grow up in. Also, what we're seeing is that kids learn from their parents. It's very, very important what you say to each other and how you act towards each other, because your kids pick up on that. Now, this film has a 40-minute documentary. It's a 40 minutes documentary that talks about different testimonials of people that have gone through the violence and have changed. They've gone through the violence and survived. Those that have been through the violence of their parents, but then have made a conscious decision not to carry on the legacy in the same way that their parents have. And you know what? As we go through in each communities around Papua New Guinea, we've realized a very important fact. And one of the things that we've come up with is that communication is actually missing from both male and female. We've been taught in our traditional ways of doing things to assume, to think you know what the other one wants. We say what we know people want to hear, not what they need to hear. So what we've been taught to do is we have to unlearn those things because those are the things that are now compounding to the problem that we're seeing now that is being escalated. And one of the things that one of the tools that we use in Senisim Pasin is the 10 communication tools. And that is something that I believe every community in Papua New Guinea need to go through that. The communication tools actually helps both sides of the conflict understand that they need to understand where the other one is coming from. The words we use are very powerful. Now, the first commandment of the communication tool, the first one says, walk away. If the other person is coming at you, you walk away. You either walk away physically or you walk away from the conversation. Walking away from the conversation is actually very hard, because what the other person would say when they see no response from you is sometimes a little below the belt. And spouses would really, get this. When I'm saying this, spouses will know where I'm coming from, because you want to get a reaction. You feel hurt, you feel betrayed, you feel that whatever the other person did or said has hurt you in such a way that you want to get even. So some of the things that will come out of your mouth are something that you know exactly where to press the button, because he's your spouse or she's your spouse. So you know exactly what to say to make them react. And that is something that we've been trying to work with women on, because the words that come out, you see, the thing about women is that they're very good with words. I think there is a study that says they speak about 20,000 words per day, and that is about 50% more than men. And because they do that, they've practiced over time on how to put their words in such a way that they know that will have an impact. And also, they're very good. They like hearing things. Words are so easy for women, and through our communication tools, we've been able to realize that a lot of women need to hear that what they do is good. They need to be appreciated, but they'd rather hear it than be shown appreciation. Now, men would rather be shown appreciation than hear it. So if you just say that thank you, they want to see you show thank you. Whereas a woman would rather hear you say thank you. So these are the different ways that a male and a female, and generally speaking, how they respond to being appreciated or in anything, the way they respond. But one of the things that we've also seen is that when we use, and this is how we come across on our 10 communication tools, women, be very careful, because whatever comes out of your mouth, we use our tongue muscle more, but then men use their hand muscle more. See, a man's hand muscle, when he cannot be able to match your tongue muscle, what he does is that he uses his hand muscle. We see a violence and we say like, oh, but he should control himself. Well, it goes both ways. She should control her tongue, and then he'll control his arm. It goes both ways. So through the communication tools, what we've also tried to talk to women in communities is that we also need to take responsibilities. We can't keep saying that they can't be angels all the time and expect them to act in that supernatural power of withholding their anger when they are being provoked to a point where you call out their mothers and say that your mother is like this and this, and you probably know that he really loves his mom, and maybe his mom is deaf, and you say you're a son of a deaf, and you keep on going at it. You think he won't react? I mean, he will. and he will react with force. Now, these are the things that we also need to take responsibility of what comes out of our mouth. In the communication tools, that's what we try to help them understand. Now, people have been, we've been told by a lot of people that that's not an excuse. Well, it's not an excuse for her to say those things too. Not an excuse. It goes both ways. We cannot demonize one and glorify the other gender. We've got to make sure that both of them take responsibility. Again, it goes back to gender appreciation. So getting women to take ownership of their words is also a very powerful thing, because that can easily escalate. Now, there are also some women that don't even need to say anything for men to get violent. Now, these are the men that what we really emphasize on programs. Every church needs to have a marriage counselor. Every church. If you're a church, then you're a house seek for spiritual people that are spiritually sick. A man that is violent towards his family is spiritually sick, and he needs help. And that help has to come from the church. Church needs to set up marriage counseling booths or marriage counselors. Every day has to be open so that family can walk in and actually be counseled, because we don't have psychologists here. And again, in companies around Papua New Guinea, we're looking at the human rights, the HR. The HR of every companies should actually have in a counselor that men could easily walk into, talk about the things that they go through without feeling, weak or demeaned in any way at all. But because they've been taught as they were growing up that you're a man, you're not supposed to cry. A little boy cries, and like, you know, Mary, are you a little girl that you are crying? We're telling our sons to be strong and not to cry and show their emotions. So guess what? They're bottling things up. And when it comes out, it just comes out as an atomic bomb. He destroys the one thing that he treasures most, and that's his family. He destroys his wife. So we've got to find a safe space for men to be able to speak about, the challenges that they're going through. They need another ear to hear them without being judgmental. And that, a counselor or a psychologist is very needed, especially in companies and in places where even the government should provide that in hospitals. We also need places or NGOs, I'm an NGO, I'm coming up with a Citizen Person program now. We need other NGOs to come up with programs similar to AAs, Alcoholic Anonymous, but this time for pornography, for sex, for violence, for polygamy, because these are the things that are compounding to this issue where we're seeing the rise in gender-based violence, not only in gender-based violence, but we're seeing the rise in a disintegration of the society itself. It's like it's being destroyed from within, and we don't know exactly what it is. But where are the safe space where men can actually talk about raping their own spouses, because that's what they are seeing on phones that are uncensored. They're getting in things that they can go into sites where it's just at the tip of their tongue, tip of their fingers. They're just getting there, and that's it. It's just one click away. Now, who's holding them accountable? No one is. And in the privacy of their car, they're going through phones. And in those phones, they're seeing things. They're coming home, they're telling their wife, I need you to practice this on me. The wife says, no, that's violence there. Or else he's threatening her. If you don't give it to me, I'm going to go out there and get it from someone else. Now, this person needs help. But where is the help that he's going to get? We need spaces where these kind of men can go and get help. And even women too, for that matter. We need spaces where women can go and get specific help, but we don't have that. That's why it's like you see this amazing tree, but you don't know that inside the tree, maggots and all these things have already been, eaten it out. Strong wind comes, it falls over. That's what we're seeing. It just falls over, and we realize that it goes deeply entrenched, and we don't have the pathway to be able to help this. A lot of them with problems like that. So having a safe space for men and women that have problems to actually talk about it, I think would really help. And it goes beyond just one person. The government needs to step in. In every hospitals has to have a wellness center where it's just about getting there to talk about, your problems. We have to have a place in companies where in every HR department, you have to have the human resource department has to provide this. We have to have this in churches. Every church has to provide a marriage counselor for marriage before they're married, after they're married, during their marriage, whatever it is, they need to have marriage counselors. We need to have a space where NGOs need to come out publicly and clearly and start talking about the perpetrators instead of the victims, because we're seeing the rising numbers, because we're just getting our programs all across. We're focusing millions and millions of kina into working with the victims and not the perpetrators, and that's where our problem is.